Hey, I'm Stephen Wool, and this has been my journey trying to get to the Unstoppable Recording Machine Summit. This started when I was a little kid, just playing drums, or wanting to play drums, banging along to anything I could, with anything I could, on anything I could. Anything from Ozzy to the Beatles to whatever was playing in the house, Journey, you name it. Then, when I was, maybe 4 or 5, watching Bill Nye, as a little kid would, I saw the episode on Sound, and the Soundgarden was on, and, I listened to them too, knew who they were, so that was cool. And they were in the studio, and I saw the big SSL and the tape machine, and I was like, that's it. That's just what I want to do, even though I was a little kid, and, it was in and out from there. When I was maybe 8 or 9, I got one of those little mixers, barely had anything on it, maybe 8 channels, and it was like TRS, if that, maybe RCA on the back, little jacks, not really could do anything, but it was something, and I, took it apart and put it back together and learned it the best that I could. And, went from there. When I was around the same age, that's when I picked up guitar, and, it was in the house, so I wanted to pick it up naturally. I never got the drum set, which is fine, still worked out, still eventually learned it, kind of learned it in the process of, just banging on things. And, eventually got the opportunity to sit in with a Emmy Award-winning producer when I was a little older, but I'm getting ahead of myself. When I was maybe, 12, 11, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy very mildly, but enough where you can tell sometimes, and then spastic hip dysplasia, which means I had to have a hip surgery in both of my hips. Instead of my hips, having the curve at the top, they were straight up and down, and they had to break them and put pins in them so that they are more normal looking hips, and had to learn how to walk again. And, wasn't like you're normally walking when you're a kid. It was painful. It was painful to walk, but it never let it stop me, and I was, just keeping going. I was in the hospital for almost a week, but I never, got too down about it. Before that I wanted to be in the military, but that obviously wasn't going to happen. Because they said if I wanted to do that, then I would need to undo the surgery, possibly, to, be able to go to do that. And I wasn't about to go do that. And so, that's when I got more into music, more into playing guitar, more into, wanting to do this more. And when I was maybe 14, like I said, I got to sit in with that producer and engineer and be in his studio, and that was my first experience actually in a studio and being wowed by that factor and seeing an actual console and seeing, everything gear and being somebody in the presence of, like that. And it just went forward from there. I went on to when I was about 17, 18, I got into it a different way. Again, getting ahead of myself. Before that, after that meeting, actually, it was, I picked up a, $20 mic, Samson mic from Target or whatever, and $40 software from Best Buy, and did everything I could. I made my first little demo EP with that one mic and that software and a crappy little laptop, and I my little crappy crate amp and my drum set with that one mic, and sung. Didn't have bass, so couldn't play bass. Didn't know program bass existed then, and if it was even that good then. And went from there. And eventually got into it, doing the live event thing, doing live sound when I was about 18. I worked for a lighting company and did it that way, and tried to get in, that way, and worked with bar bands and things like that. When and where I could to, try and get in that way. And that turned into me, going to school for doing stage tech work and becoming certified as a stage technician. And worked for everybody and anybody you could probably think of, in that time, from Sheryl Crow to, AC/DC to Phantom of the Opera to WWE to, whatever you could probably think of. I've worked something similar to it, and, and that was a really great opportunity, and I was glad I was able to do that. And, it took me really far. Didn't really get me into the business as much as I thought it would, but it was still a great experience, and I still got to do sound, which was great. And then I, eventually got my side job, or a steady job on the side as a part-time guy at a auditorium, doing sound, doing lights, doing that type of thing, doing what I do. And one day when I was walking in, it was winter, it was rainy one day and it iced over in the next, and I had to walk to work. I only lived maybe 3 blocks away, and slipped and fell in the middle of the road. And had no one out there to help me at first. I looked up, I got up and looked up. I didn't actually get up. I had to roll out of the way because there was cars in the middle of the road. It was a busy road. It was the main road. It's Capitol Avenue in the Capitol. The Capitol building is just down the street. And so I had to roll out of the way, like I said, and I had to yell for help at the side of the road. And luckily somebody in front of the building I needed to get to, because it was right in front of, the auditorium I worked at, was salting, ironically, and shoveling, and eventually heard me and, helped me up, and I hobbled into work, in lots of pain, but, willing to keep working. I felt sick, I felt really in shock, but I was like, alright, well, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to delegate at least. I want to do something. I want to get this done. We had a dance show that week. So, we needed to get it done. And I wanted to stay there, and I filled out my accident report that I needed to, because, it happened at the college, technically. And because that's, the auditorium was at a community college, if I didn't say that before. And my coworkers were like, no, you're going to urgent care. And I went to urgent care, and they're like, you were even dumb for coming here. You should have just went to the emergency room, which I did. And I sat there for a while, and once I got in there, they got me some x-rays and said, you messed up your arm pretty bad. You shattered your elbow. Which I don't know, you can kind of see it. Instead of breaking it normally this way, I split it this way. And I had to have surgery, had to, and then on top of it, the other side of my arm was dislocated. So that kind of put me out for a while. I was out for about 2 months. And so instead of just sitting around, and, thankfully I had an amazing girlfriend, or have an amazing girlfriend that took care of me. But, I was doing nothing for about 2 months, and so instead of just sitting around and being on meds, which I didn't do, I couldn't handle what they gave me, I asked for something less. Just an ibuprofen 800 is all I wanted, and that was still even a lot. Never really been a fan of the pain medicine, even for my hip surgery, but that's not the point. I just kept going. I took classes and did things, did the ultimate drum production, which was great, and took any other class I could find, did anything I could, read any book, listened to any podcast I could. I wasn't just going to sit there. And, eventually got into physical therapy and tried to take it as far as I could. And, eventually got, into some more extensive physical therapy, and still didn't get as far as I needed. I couldn't really take the work I was taking before of these big artists, because, there's a lot more to do. It's a lot heavier work. It's a lot more intensive than what I was doing at the community college. And so I couldn't do it anymore. I spent about a year and a half trying to make it still, but I couldn't do it anymore. And so when my lease was up, I had to move back in with my mom's, which is where I'm at now. And and just try and start over. And when that injury happened, I kind of know that, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna go all in on the studio stuff. And I was in URM before that, but that's when I really started to get involved. And the summit had just happened, I think, previous to that, and I couldn't make it because I was working. And then I knew I wasn't going to make the summit after my injury because I didn't have any money. And my goal at the beginning of this year was trying to make it to summit, and obviously I still didn't make it. And so I really want to make it to summit. I really want to meet all these amazing people and have the amazing experience that I keep hearing about. Especially since it's not happening next year, and this is the last thing I wanted to do. I don't want to ask for money from people, but if it gets me where I want to go, luckily Unstoppable Recording Machine URM is going to cover my flight, and thank you AL and the whole team for that. I appreciate that, and I'm gonna work that off with them, and hopefully whoever helps me, if anyone helps me, I will be able to make it up to you in some way, shape, or form, and thank you in advance, I guess. I don't know. This is really hard for me. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. That's, what I have of my story. It's been a lot, and I'm sure I might have missed something here or there, but that's what I have. And thank you. And hopefully I see everyone who sees this at Summit. And yeah, thanks again. Have a good one.